Share Shootout brought to you by Lion of Africa Insurance, insuring South Africa's future.
Welcome to the spanking new, still scheming, conniving and downright vicious stock-picking show on television. I'm Bruce Whitfield and this is the set of the all-new Share Shootout League right here on CNBC Africa, first in business worldwide. Now, will President Jacob Zuma pay for the fire pool and settle his fringe benefits tax from SARS? What if I put it to you, that the fire pool really is just a fire pool and the cattle culvert is just an emergency exit? We can explain anything from the valley to the pinnacle, of course. And if you're going to bribe a cop, lesson number one, try to find one with the morals of a fire pool apologist. Now, we don't know the answers to any of the complicated and highly illogical questions that we ask on the show. What we do know, we have a man who has absolutely no friends. It's just got family, really. Shame. Poor guy. Let's check out our first contestant on the all-new Share Shootout League. Let's check out Bucks.
Stand by for action.
My name is Alexander Naryshkine, but Sasha is short for Alexander. Call me Sasha, please. Everything from answering the phones.
Oldfield? Yes, I've heard of that company.
To attending to client email. To, make payments, everything. We like to answer our own phones because when someone phones, strangely, they want to speak to us. Ignore lots of the noise in the short term. Buy the quality and stick with it for as long as possible. Get inside Bruce's head just to try and confuse him as much as possible. Yeah, and act like Carl Icahn. Outrageous. Like, this board is pathetic. I've never seen such a useless board. When, of course, it's someone else's pick. Yeah, that's how I think I'm going to win. Yeah, but you mustn't tell my competitors. Warren Buffett. No, I'm kidding. Has to be Bruce Whitfield. He's way too clever for everybody on this show. So if I can beat him, I'll be happy. I just need to beat Bruce. Then I think I'll win this league. Yeah.
He's got 40 weeks to prove his mettle. I don't know if he has got what it takes. I've noticed you were reading a Warren Buffett book.
That wasn't mine.
I didn't know they came in sort of like comics and with pictures.
No, that was my colleagues, and it said the Warren Buffett way. I'd actually read it on a thing called a Kindle before, because I haven't bought a book in about 6 or 7 years.
Oh, you're so doomed on this show. Yeah. You're so doomed. Sasha Naryshkine from Vestact is going head-to-head with a man who was once a Billy Bowden in disguise. Here is Maverick.
Syd Vianello. I'm an independent investment analyst and investment advisor. I like looking at themes. I devise themes to suit the particular investment climate, and I try investing in companies which fit into whatever theme I believe is appropriate for the business cycle at any one particular time. At this point, I don't have a game plan. This is the first time I'm in the competition, and I would say I would probably end up devising a game plan as we move along and as I get a feel of how things are developing. At this stage, I would simply say Sasha, simply because he's the longest serving member on the team, and he is a very experienced and very successful investment advisor in his own right. I wouldn't have entered if I didn't think I had a good or a reasonable chance of winning it. At the end of the day, it is a game and we're all here to have fun, but deep down, we all want to win it as well.
So Syd Vianello, the independent analyst, how do you fancy their chances? How do you fancy your chances against the man whose name we only mention quietly, Sasha? Because he is so ferocious and so scary and so experienced in this game, Syd.
So what?
Oh,
so what?
He's got the spirit of the game already.
No, you know what? He may be the Edgar. You know that advert?
No, I don't.
Okay. So Vianello, because it's your first time, we're going to be very nice to you, and we're going to make Sasha play first. So we've got to have house rules. You need to know the house rules because they've changed ever so slightly. What happens is that both guests have pre-picked 3 shares. Neither knows what the other holds, but they must accept at least one of their competitors' stocks. And the longer they leave it, the more likely it is that they'll have to accept something they really don't like. Each has got 30 seconds to argue their stock pick from the top shares on the JSE, but in a new and quite dramatic twist, we give each one of them weekly an offshore allowance. Now they are allowed to dabble globally too. So now that you know the house rules, let's get started, and partly because I've been stripped of my divine right to go all Egyptian and order mass executions for decisions I don't like, that power, in the spirit of democracy, is now in your hands. You decide who wins this match. I think it's terribly unfair, but that's apparently what democracy is all about. So I need you to go onto Twitter, to follow at SSO League, and vote either for Bucks or Maverick at the end of the show, please, to decide who should be the winner of this round. You've got it, Syd. You with the program. It is your first time. We're going to make Sasha teach you how it is done, sort of, because he's not that good. Sasha, I would like to know, in 30 seconds, please.
Yes,
you played this game
must I
before.
speak to you or the camera, Bruce?
You speak to me. You speak to me, because them's the rules. It's about me, Sasha.
Okay. Oh, this show's all about you.
It is about me.
That part I know. Yeah.
Excellent. As long as you understand that, we're going to get on famously.
But you are not very rude this time.
Not this time, although I'd really
The viewers are very rude this time.
Don't hurt the viewers. Don't insult the viewers. The viewers may get back at you. Okay, Sasha Naryshkine from Vestact. In 30 seconds, I would like to know why you like... why you like Richemont.
Richemont. Yes, Bruce, I've liked the stock several times. You always say it's expensive. Ironically, at this time, it's probably at the bottom end of the range since, we've had the ability to be able to buy them here in South Africa in their purest format. Brands of that quality you cannot replicate. And sure, we've seen a slowdown in China as a result of austerity, but you've seen Europe bounce back quite quickly. And I think, in essence, when you want to own the majors, you want to own the pure plays. You want to own the people who sell jewelry and you watches.
There we go. And wallets and ties and other expensive things.
And clothing, yes.
There we go. All right.
Yeah. And shotguns.
I had to give him extra. Do they own Purdy shotguns as well?
Purdy shotguns.
Yeah, they do.
See, now I have a newfound respect for Meneer Rupert. I'm just going to stand up straight now as I speak about him. There's not a lot to like about Richemont. It's a phenomenal company. Their brands are phenomenal. Purdy shotguns are magnificent if you're into that kind of thing. But is it a share worth buying, Syd?
It's a hard one because I happen to own the share myself.
I thought he said he owns a Purdy shotgun, in which case he would win, hands down.
I do own the share myself, but depending on our time horizon, in the current circumstances, I'm not entirely sure that I'd want to buy the share right now.
And that is the
I
point.
think there will come a time in the future that maybe I'll be able to pick up the share at pretty much the same price where it's trading currently, which means that there's a lost opportunity.
Yes.
And that's the only reason why I don't think that I would want to put new money into Richemont right now. It is a great business. It has got great brands. But there are certain categories where they haven't had success. I mean, in China, for instance, it may not just be watches. Leather goods, for instance, have turned out to be one of the big winners in China. And maybe an investor would want to look at something like Prada or something like that.
I need to challenge Sasha
rather than Richemont.
I need to challenge Sasha on this. The opportunity cost thing is interesting. We saw you paging through the Warren Buffett book, and we saw you sort of internalize Warren Buffett's philosophies of buying really good quality companies and holding on to them for the long term, harvesting the dividends and enjoying the capital growth.
Well, in this case, the dividend is a bit of an issue because the Swiss government keep 35%. So the next time you're there as a Richemont shareholder, jump on a bus in Zurich because you paid for it already. But you can get the
you do get a
they do
big
keep
part
a
of
large
it back.
chunk of it. Yeah.
But what about Syd's point about the opportunity cost? Fair point.
It is a fair point, but I think in the cycle, this is probably the cheapest that I've seen Richemont since you've had available, since you've been able to buy the business as a pure play, because Johan Rupert was really smart. He stuck the cigarettes business in there and said, there, you can have this business, and we rate it on a luxury model, even though you had the cigarettes part there. So
yeah, but wait a minute. The best time to have bought it then would have been 4 years ago.
At 15 Rand.
Well, 15 or even 3 years ago when it was 28 Rands.
I take it.
There's a big difference between 28 and 102 or whatever.
Absolutely.
100.
I'll take it, Syd. You're shooting it down. Not because you don't like the company, but because the share is simply too expensive and the opportunity
I'm simply shooting it down because I think on an opportunity cost basis, there may be other opportunities where I can put my money now to get a better return. Doesn't mean it's a bad business.
Correct. Okay, you're shot down on that one, Sasha.
Well, he owns it, so he obviously thinks it's
He owns it, and he's owned it for a long time, and he bought it cheaply, Sasha.
Yes.
Stick to the rules of investing.
Okay,
Sasha. Now, Syd, I'm interested in your first pick this evening because it is one of the least favourite shares in its sector.
Because you all thought I was going to select a retail share, probably not.
Probably.
Oh, you didn't.
Well,
You
I
didn't.
did, and then I had I got sight of your shares. But here's an interesting pick because it is the least favoured in its sector. It's not JD Group or African Bank. It is in the banking sector. In
Right.
30 seconds, I would like to know why you like the Barclays Africa Group. 30 seconds start now.
Very simply, Barclays is at the bottom, at the trough in terms of its share price movement. But let's consider what they've done up to now and what's going to drive the earnings going forward. More than 20% of the earnings now comes from Africa. I'm a great fan of the African theme. And I think that the businesses in Africa they bought, they didn't start them yesterday. Many of them are more than 100 years old. And a big exposure to East Africa, where I think a lot of the growth is going to happen with the gas and what have you. That's the first thing.
30 seconds are up, you see. Look how tough that game is. That was the
It's
first
bad,
thing. Unfortunately, we don't get to hear the second. Keep your powder dry on that particular point. If you want the Africa exposure, don't you do Standard Bank rather than Barclays, Sasha?
No, I think, and I've heard it argued that Barclays kind of was looking for one entity, one tradable entity. And I think that was a good move on their part, to be able to take all those businesses and find one currency, one place. The only criticism I have of Barclays is perhaps that their management team aren't as strong as the other banks in South Africa.
They have bolstered the Barclays Africa team, though. We've got Craig Bond in there, who's gone in and
James
said...
Bond. His name is James Bond, a la Craig Bond.
but he's gone in there and gone, what have you guys been doing for the last 4 years? And he's gone in with a great big banking enema. It's a horrible image, and I'm really sorry for that, but it's appropriate. And he's cleaning up.
That's the other part of the story.
Excellent. I knew you'd get it in.
And the third part of the story is they took action seemingly earlier than everybody else.
And it cost them
in terms
money
of
in the short term.
Cost them money, but they've taken the pain. A lot of other of their competitors, I think, are still going to take the pain on the bad debt cycle.
All right. I need to know, Sasha, whether or not you like Barclays Africa enough to buy it. I think you guys at Vestact are allergic to banks anyway. You don't mind putting your wads of cash in the bank, but you don't want to buy the shares.
No, as a whole. I just want to correct everyone. When we talk about the Africa story, I'm reminded that South Africa has an Africa in it. So
Really? Is it part of the continent?
Think about it from an international investor point of view. If you're sitting overseas, you don't care whether South Africa considers themselves the rest of Africa or not.
Yeah.
But I think having put it all into one tradable entity in a liquid market, and I think they have lagged their
No, they have.
their peer group. I'm going to go with this one.
What?
No, listen, hear me out. Simply because I think on
Listen.
listen,
I don't.
listen,
Sorry,
on a
yes,
price
yes, dear. I
performance
thought you were
point
my
of
wife
view.
for a moment.
No, she shouts much louder, Bruce. I think on a price performance point of view, it's probably going to do better than their peers. And I think, how are we to know where the interest rate cycle is? This one is different.
Yes.
This one is different because there was action, because there was, a little bit of heat on emerging markets.
There we go. So, Barclays Africa, you will accept.
I'll
Syd
keep
Vianello?
my 2.6 guns in my sling. Here.
Your first pick on the show has been accepted by Sasha.
I can't believe it.
He hasn't seen how wonderful your next two picks are because he may be obliged to accept your next two picks as well.
Yes, no,
We'll
play the
see.
game.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay, Sasha Naryshkine from Vestact. I'm interested in your next pick as well. It suffers, unfortunately, from the same disease as your first pick, in that it has had an enormous run. It has been fantastically successful. It is one of South Africa's greatest exports since SAB Miller. In 30 seconds.
You mean Richemont?
And Richemont.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds, I want to know why you still like Aspen.
Because I think that, in terms of minds, CEOs, Stephen Sard, who's still 12.1% shareholder of this business, still has lots of legs. And they've been in acquisitive mode, and I think those are going to feed through to earnings over the next 2 years in a bigger way than people anticipated. The Asia Pacific business is now a third of all profits. So, and that's a region where you want to be in, where it's been under-serviced. And I think essentially it's a demographic story. So where people are I didn't hear the bang.
Well, I heard it, and your time is up, I'm afraid. Aspen, lovely company, lovely story, wonderful chief executive. People tell me he travels on Kalula.com to Durban.
the back.
No private jet.
No, I can tell you, and I can also tell you where he went on holiday in December because I was at the same place. And
Rich people.
Rich people, that's where they go.
And it was a very inexpensive place to go to.
Where was that?
We were at Beacon Isle in Picnic Bay, and he was there with his whole family. It was a family holiday.
Yeah.
And one thing he told me, because I did have a chat to him about one or two things, which is...
Well, the first thing he said, leave me alone, I'm on holiday.
No,
And the next thing was-
it wasn't as bad as that.
Syd is actually more famous than Steve.
He joked about the situation with the government contracts, which are under pressure now because of the weak rand, and he said, that ultimately that's actually more than, and he said it publicly as well, it's more than offset by what I gain every time the rand appreciates in terms of the conversion of my foreign earnings. So at the end of the day, the government eventually compensates me, so that one comes back to normal. That kind of normalizes in any event, but I still get the benefit of the weak currency. And you've got to give him credit for doing those things. It's a hard one to shoot down, but
Richemont, it's a hard one to shoot down because of the quality.
Well, because of the quality, but the second issue, and it is something that worries me, and we have to take this into account in deciding whether I'm going to shoot it down or not. They've taken on a ginormous amount of debt, huge amounts of debt. The debt is also foreign, although it probably doesn't matter if it's domestic or it's foreign. But in a rising interest rate scenario, which is going to start in America, I mean, Janet Yellen's already told us about it. And it's obviously started here, and we'll hear this afternoon whether it's going to go up further or not, or whether it's going to go up in a hurry or not. I think it's coming later, but nonetheless, in a rising interest rate scenario, the cost of that debt could become prohibitive.
Okay. Now,
And
I need to give Sasha an opportunity to respond to the interest rate question because we need to move on.
I think it's fair, but they've proven that, we're not talking about a retailer here that sells food. We're talking about very expensive,
Life-saving,
admittedly generic therapies, but they're high margins. So very cash generative and able to pay that debt down maybe a lot quicker than normal businesses are.
Are you taking it or are you shooting it down? So
don't have
bearing
my
in
third.
mind,
No.
bearing in mind there is a third pick.
I want to hear the third one as well.
No, you can't hear the third one. You have to either accept this
the
one.
third reason.
Oh no, we haven't got time for a third reason.
Oh, we haven't got time for a third reason.
Accept or shoot it down.
No, I had a look at another thing in this issue of cash flow. And I was a little bit worried about what I saw. And that's the reason why I'd shoot it down.
You're shooting it down?
Yeah.
I have to let you
all
shoot it down.
guns blazing.
All guns blazing. You've shot it down. So what you've done so far, Syd, is you have shot down Richemont and Aspen, which means you have to take stock pick number 3, regardless of whether you like it or not.
Correct.
Bearing in mind,
I'm taking the gamble.
bearing in mind, it may be local or it may be global, because each of you has your offshore allowance.
I'm taking the gamble.
He's taking the gamble. Sasha Naryshkine, he's playing the game. He's strategic. You have accepted Syd Vianello's first pick, which is Barclays Africa. I'm interested now, Syd, in you trying to convince Sasha that stock pick number 2 is also worthy of being accepted. I like this one. It is one that you would know very, very well because of its various interests within the retail sector, and you've made a career out of retail analysis. Give me 30 seconds on Steinhoff, Aspen.
Very simply, when Steinhoff was started, I listed the company, so I go back a long time. It was a furniture manufacturer. In 15 years, he's transformed it into the second largest furniture retailer in the Western world, after IKEA. The other thing he's done, he's recognized that margins are all important in the industry. And he's shifting the focus away from low margin product, particularly in France, into a high margin product. And he's expanded his business in Germany through organic growth.
30 seconds are up. It's a great story, Sasha. The Steinhoff story, the transformation, I didn't know that you listed it. You know the background deeply. Do you really want to go up against him on this one, Sasha?
It's a good thing they didn't buy JD Group at 95 Rand, huh?
It's a good thing.
In
I
a
agree
share
with
swap.
you.
So
I agree with
sometimes
you.
it's better to be unlucky and
because they did make a pitch, didn't they?
And it was a share swap as well, and their share price was trading like 11 or 12 rands at that time.
And
so they would have been disastrous.
And they were on a P of about 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And
they always have been perpetually cheap, though, Steinhoff.
No. Well, it has been perpetually cheap, but the P has now gone over 11, as the share price has moved.
Because the
through
share price
50s.
has gone up a lot. Yeah.
It has.
So there is.
Well, I can tell you, in September last year, when the results came out, was 30 rands. But what are we? 6 months down the line, the share price is now over 50.
Yeah.
So you've had a 70% price appreciation in what? 6.5 months.
You're helping Sasha build a case against
helping.
you.
Come on. So I think, I think the European recovery story was a large part of that move up. Suddenly people were believing. They had gone from an era of believing that Greece and Spain and maybe even Germany would, shunt themselves out of this fabulous team, and to an era of believing inclusiveness. And in fact, we've seen one entrant in the form of Latvia this year into the EU, and Poland have stuck their hand up and said, we want to be part of you now. So European recovery story is in full flight. But again, it sometimes plays to a demographic story. So now we're worried that people in Japan are getting older and older, where they sell more adult diapers than baby diapers in Japan. The demographic story in Europe is also a little bit tricky. So how much cheap furniture can you have? I think the share price has gone too far, just in conclusion. So I'm going to shoot it down.
You're shooting it down on that basis, Syd Vianello. There's no chance of a rebuttal in this particular court, I'm afraid. Lovely business. Just like Richemont's a lovely business, it got shot down as well. Whether you sold on Maverick or on Bucks, whether you think they stop here or should be stopped here, we don't discriminate on at Share Shootout League, at SSO League. That's where you follow us on Twitter. Make your thoughts count by voting for your most convincing stock picker by using their hashtags. Join us on the flip side of the ad break to see who slays who. We'll get the new dog with some old tricks, or will Bucks justify his reputation? The answers on the other side of the break. Please don't go anywhere. We need your votes, just like Idols, without the funky music or the singing, which is good with these guys. This is Share Shootout League, the only league that does not, by under any circumstances, accept bribes. Well, we don't accept bribes in cash, but other things are very welcome. You're watching CNBC Africa, first in business worldwide. Remember, this is match day number 1, and you can see the log standings right behind me. Nobody's registered for a match or a point yet, but these two stock pickers will change all of this. Before the break, Syd and Sasha both gave us 2 of their stock picks. And the stock picks, of course, this evening, if you have a look at Sasha Naryshkine from Vestact, Richemont and Aspen, both have been shot down with a vengeance. Sasha's got 1 pick left to convince Syd that he's a good stock picker. And Syd Vianello, the independent analyst, chose Barclays Africa and Steinhoff. Barclays Africa accepted. Steinhoff shot down simply because it is up already 60 or 70% in the last 6 months. Now, the referee's additional time now, so no holds barred as we get into the last stock picks of the evening. Remember, you need to vote for either hashtag Maverick or hashtag Bucks. Maverick is Syd, Bucks is Sasha. You'll get used to it. And also the show goes by the Twitter handle at SSO League. It's complicated, but you'll get the hang of it. And of course, when you want your favorites to win, you already sit there voting extensively. And the vote, incidentally, is completely free. Right, Syd Vianello, you went second last time, which means you go first this time round.
I go first.
I
right.
would like you, please, to tell me in 30 seconds why it is that you're a big fan of Imperial Holdings. 30 seconds now.
Very simply, I accept that motor distribution, the Hyundais and what have you, are going to be in trouble. I accept that motor car retailing is going to struggle, but they've got a phenomenal transport business. The weaker rand gives Europe car rental a great future, and most importantly, they've lacked direction since the death of the late Bill Lynch. And now we have Mark Lamberti, whom I have the ultra respect for. Lamberti is going to drive that business.
At that point, we're going to leave it. Sasha, you've got 30 seconds to rebut.
Yeah, it's a business I think that everybody knows really, really well. I mean, you would have seen the announcement from Transnet on the build-up of the railway infrastructure. That's why a lot of local logistics company have done fabulously well. They really have.
Because Transnet's been rubbish.
Because Transnet's been rubbish. So what is this next move? I think it's a 50 billion rand rollout of rolling stock. I don't know where that's going to put those businesses, because what if Transnet actually get it right? Because
5, 10 years from now?
Well, you
10.
know.
The 1,000 rolling stock doesn't even come anywhere near the 4,000 that apparently we've lost over the last 20 odd years.
Where are they all?
But Sasha, you don't care.
They've been scrapped.
You're
They've
shooting
been
him down
scrapped.
anyway.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I mean, traditionally, and Syd will know this well, just on a valuations basis, a lot of these stocks used to trade on very cheap multiples.
It is cheap.
Because it was very cyclical.
It is cheap,
Yeah, but
but you don't like it.
Imperial's cheap again.
Yeah,
it's below 10.
maybe.
It's below 10.
Yeah, I just don't think the earnings are going to be as aggressively as people are forecasting.
If it was up to me, Syd, you'd be winning this competition. But as I don't have the right to choose winners
still 40
anymore, we
weeks to
leave
go.
it up to our viewers. I think you should vote against Sasha tonight, everybody. I really think you do, because he's making a pitiful argument against Imperial. Okay, so you're shooting it down, I take it.
Yeah, and follow me on Twitter. I'll follow you back.
Oh, suck up. Nobody likes a suck up.
Are you trying to tell me I must eventually join Twitter? I
Yeah,
haven't done it.
absolutely.
I'll ask my son how to do it. It's too complicated for me.
We'll
Don't
shoot-
ask Bruce. He's only got 30,000 followers, or
52.
52. Sorry.
We must leave it there. So you've shot him down. You taking your offshore allowance this evening? You are.
Yes.
You're taking
Yes.
your
Oh,
offshore
you're
allowance.
taking your offshore
In
allowance. Okay.
30 seconds, I'd like to know why you put that offshore allowance into credit cards. Visa, 30 seconds.
It's not credit card, it's a payment processing. And the MasterCard CEO said 9 out of every 10 transactions globally is still cash. So where would you want to be from a regulatory point of view? They would want to do away. Do you remember checkbooks? I had a look at mine the other day, threw it away back in the pile, into file 13 or whatever. But I'm just saying, huge margins in this business. You know, they got an operating profit margin of 64%. That's where I think I'm going to leave it, Bruce.
There we go. 30 seconds are almost up. So you've got 30 seconds to either accept or rebut. You have to accept.
I have no problem accepting it. Whether it's Visa, whether it's MasterCard, whether it's American Express, I like them all for exactly the same reason. They are great business. I took a gamble, but I think my gambles worked. I like the call.
Okay, there we go.
I'm very
He likes
happy
the call.
with the call.
You're accepting the call, Sasha Naryshkine. You live to fight another day. So, who do we say should be the winner on this particular show? I no longer get to set people on fire, and that's a big problem. So you either go for Syd, who goes by the hashtag Maverick, or you go for Sasha, who goes by the hashtag Bucks. Have they done enough to win the Twitter vote this evening? That is the big question that only you can answer. So you go onto twitter.com. We'll tally up the votes until midnight on Sunday. And until then, thank you so much for watching. Get your friends to vote, because Sasha has no friends. He's only got family members, and he's got no standards. So whoever gets the most votes wins, and he'll follow you back. So we have no standards on the show yet. Follow at SSO League at the same time as we say that we will be more credible than the IEC. Join us right here on CNBC Africa next Tuesday, 8:30 for match 2, when 2 of our 9 stock pickers will be making changes to the log. It's going to be a grueling 40 weeks with the most remorseless stock picking show on television. We'll also show you the league tables next week as to who won and who lost between Sasha and Syd this evening as well. At SSO League, give us your thoughts on the facelift. Until next week, stay cunning. Good night.